Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast all about video games and beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben, here with Lucy.
Hi, Ben.
Hey.
Where am I? What podcast is this?
It's a podcast where we talk about games and we drink some beers. So, in true Lucy style, you've played no games, you've got no beers.
Okay, to be fair, I forgot about the beers, but yeah, the games are my fault. That's me.
I hate to break it to you, but forgetting about beers is also your fault. Like, I'm not saying it's a big fault, but pretending like there's a difference.
That was okay. Not playing games is more of a conscious kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Whereas forgetting the beers was completely subconscious.
I mean, I wouldn't have beers if it wasn't the fact that I had random ones in my fridge.
That's fair.
Because I wasn't expecting to record today.
You weren't. And we're joined by Aadil. Hey.
Oh, hey, yeah. I'm the guy who waits to be introduced.
I panic bought as well. And my beers, our supermarket beers. We're going to do a similar show, I suppose, to last week. A little bit longer, but only one episode this week. So, we only had one beer each last week, didn't we? But we can probably fit in a couple if it's just you and I, Aadil, drinking with the time we have to describe. So why don't we kick in with those beers first? I'm going to jump straight in with a double dry hopped IPA. So these beers are from Morrison's. I haven't looked in Morrison's beers for a long time, but they had about 5 or 6 new ones that I hadn't seen before. I had a few last night, and I picked these two to drink on the podcast. The first one is Order of the North, which is a Northern Monk beer. It's a collaboration, 7% double dry hopped IPA, a collaboration with Rivington, who have got like a bull's sort of skull as their logo with an upside down kind of bottle in between it. I don't think I've had anything.
Very steakhousey.
Yes, it is quite steakhousey. Yeah, I don't think I've had anything from Rivington. But the flavour text basically just says double dry hopped IPA. It's about the only thing that is dry up here. It's got Idaho 7, Azaka, Strata, and Citra in it. That's it. That's all they give us. Cool. Fine. I shall open this up. Aadil, what are you drinking?
I have this beer, and I am not even sure if we just talked about it or if one of us had it before, but I didn't, so that's all that matters. It was in my fridge. It's the Dundalk Bay Brewery's Brewmaster Premium Irish Nitro Stout.
I think we did discuss it, yes.
But I knew we talked about it, but I didn't think someone had it. But then I couldn't remember, and I realized it doesn't matter. Again, it was the one in my fridge. It is 4.2%, a 440ml can. That's really all she says. Yeah, so I'm going to crack this Nitro Stout.
Nice.
I don't know why, but it really feels extreme having the Nitro. I guess because nitrous, maybe that's what's making me think Nitro Stout is something like fast and or furious.
I mean,
it's actually very smooth. It's a very smooth talker.
Yes, you are meant to pour it fast, aren't you?
It says smooth pour.
Okay.
Aren't you meant to, with nitro ones, aren't you meant to like dump it in? Basically just upend it straight into the can and pour it as fast as possible.
Oh.
I mean, it's not heading.
Nice.
That's a nice pour. That's a very good pour.
Very nice. Ooh.
Oh yeah, that was like an effortless pour. I mean, I think I actually made it get more head by being tentative at the very end. Oh, but actually, look at that.
I'll go and kick straight in with your beer then, as we're enjoying how delectable it looks.
It smells nice and sweet. It's almost like they've got like a roasted malty, yummy stouty notes, but then like almost like a layer of demerara on top. Just nice, like very distinct sort of brown sugar sweetness, which just makes it nice and round, and then you get the burnt afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, it is as creamy as that looked. It's nice and velvety. Again, it's only a 4.2%, but it has enough creaminess to make it give it that viscous, velvety feel that I bang on about, and is usually reserved for, or at least very much more easily attainable by high ABV stouts. You can tell it's a bit lighter in the finish. It sort of finishes a bit wet. So that initial taste has got that velvety, sort of thicker feel. But then it finishes and you're like, oh yeah, I can see it. And with that, the roasted notes feel a bit weaker, but they still last quite a bit long. So I guess because it has such a lovely initial taste, I'm expecting sort of a stronger, more boisterous finish. But it actually finishes as long as a more sort of a higher ABV stout. It's just a much subtler finish. So it's like 2 rungs down from where I was expecting like the strength of those roasted malts to be. And again, just a tint of like acridity, and then just a lovely finish. And I suspect that might actually build a bit once my palate gets used to it. I will feel less. The fact that it is a bit weaker will matter less, just because my palate will have it in it. I hope anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah. Really tasty. And easily, because it is thinner on that finish. Even though I have those lingering notes, I want to taste this more. So this is one of those beers which really lends itself to drinking it quicker, not because it's forcing you, because it's like drying you out, but just because it's like, I really like that burst of flavor at the beginning. I kind of, and it works really well with the lingering finish. I kind of just want to refill on that taste.
Yeah, nice. Oh, it's good to have a stout like that. I don't think I've had a nitro stout for ages.
I think I had the last one I had was the Siren one of the Caribbean chocolate cake, and that was my favourite out of that. Their release, was it last year?
I was going to say, was that this year or was it last year?
I think it was last year, yeah, like November or something. Because it's November or something like that. They put them out, but so yeah, that was my pick out of those. And yeah, that was very nice.
It's
so smooth and creamy.
It's interesting that people don't do more nitro stouts.
Yeah. Wish they did.
Yeah, it would be good, but maybe we just need to seek them out more. Maybe people are doing them and we just don't notice them as much, perhaps, because as we tend to do, we go towards the higher ABV stouts a lot of the time. So we have that bigger body, we have that creaminess with them. So maybe we're just missing out on something that's nitro-y and maybe a little bit lower in ABV, perhaps.
I had a Guinness in Suffolk. If that counts.
Yeah. It does, yeah. It's a bit,
I think it does, yeah. And it's sometimes
I think it only doesn't count as a pure snob.
True.
Yeah, I mean, like when you're in the middle of nowhere, and there's a pub and everything else looks pretty dire, and you've been supping on saisons prior to that. Guinness goes a long way.
Yeah. Good. This beer, not a Guinness, double dry hopped IPA, all of the north, doesn't have a very big nose. I expected something bigger. It was. It's.
I mean, it's double dry hopped. You'd expect something to be on the nose.
So there was that little bit of tropical fruit, maybe a little bit of mango that was wafting off of the nose, but it was very, very light. It wasn't big at all. And kind of in the flavour, it's lost a little bit. That mango nose, that really tropical kind of mango nose, it isn't quite there. This isn't very juicy, but it's almost like trying to be. And I always have I don't know whether it is the whole, like, we've had to bash out 40,000 cans for a supermarket versus we've only made 10,000 or however many litres we've made on this kit over here, which we're sending out to bottle shops and all of these kinds of things. Or, just that mass kind of scale in terms of kind of trying to get up to a 7% beer, but doing it on such a large scale kind of has just weakened things down a little bit. It's got that a little bit of orange in there, but it's almost, when we have some of these weaker beers, some of these really lighter kind of, when you're looking at 3 or 4% pales, which have that like orange squash kind of quality to them, that little bit of a weak flavour. This has that. This has that little bit of weakness to it. Got a little, as I say, a little hint of orange in there. There's a little bit of mango as well, just to bolster a little bit of a tropical note. But kind of towards the end, they start to fade a little bit, and then there's this almost like pithy kind of after flavour. You know, when you've got right down to the you're eating an orange and you've just eaten all of the flesh, and suddenly you're kind of right down towards where the rind meets, and it's that kind of pithiness that you're sort of getting with there. A little bit of a zest as well, perhaps, that's just in that kind of finish, which isn't unpleasant at all, but it isn't a exciting flavour. It just exists and is there, and you're like, oh yeah, bit of orange, like I've eaten an orange, basically, and it's on the turn slightly. Yeah. It's a little bit bitter.
Yeah, it's not the fruitiest orange you've had. It's one that I was just like, eh.
Absolutely. Yeah.
At least I had an orange.
It's one of my 5 a day. Yeah. I'm not sure I can quite class this as doing any kind of healthy kick for me, but I'm going to drink it nonetheless. And we can launch into talking about video games. Aadil, as it's probably fresh in your memory, do you want to talk about the game that you streamed yesterday?
For sure.
Which I've been calling like Uragun.
I'm pretty sure it's Uragun.
Clever. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you play as a mech, which wakes up an AI in a mech that powers up and then bumps into an AI, which tells you the world's gone to shit, and all you're doing is looking for your pilot, and they're like, humans aren't really around anymore, and there's a bunch of corrupt AIs.
Oh.
But it's a
Titanfall 3.
So that's how I think it's Uragun. So it says, so take control of a friendly but deadly mech unit, face endless hordes of corrupt machines, gear up, and improvise your way out of trouble in this action-packed, futuristic top-down shooter. And yeah, I played for a couple hours. We got the code from Cool to Play, who is the dev and publisher. And it's in early access, but early access came out, I think, this week, basically.
Right, so it's full release this week.
Yeah, on the 12th, yeah, so like day of. And so I think that's why the devs came, a handful of them came and watched me play their game not so great. But it's really cool. So it's, again, top-down tank controls. Very keyboard and mouse, so you're aiming with the mouse, and your W is always up, not forward.
Right.
Took a while. It took a bit for me to get used to that again. Really nice aesthetic. You start in sort of a deserty thing, but then later levels are in like cities, and you're like on like Hong Kong rooftops, and like really like nice, simple, clean design. All the enemies are sort of blackish robots with red glowing bits, so it's really easy to spot them. So as things get frenetic, you're not like lost. You start with a minigun, which has sort of, I'd say, like a third of the screen range, and then you sort of within a level get like a rocket launcher, which will just keep going, and it has 3 rockets, and then it takes some time to like build up. And you have a couple mechanics like heat. You have like 4, basically enemies drop little glowing balls, and they disappear quicker than you want. But if you pick them up, they're heat, and you fill up 4 circles of heat, up to 4 circles of heat on your underneath your health bar, and then you can't pick up any more. F will you heal like maybe a fifth of your health with a full heat circle. E will do like basically in the first few levels you get a weapon which is like an explosion around you, which kills most things, or does a lot of damage, uses up a full heat. Later you pick up a grenade version of that where you now will lob that explosion away from you, so you can proactively do it instead of waiting for yourself to get beat up. And then you also get like a bullet time overdrive mode, which is on a different thing, and there's a score multiplier, so you kind of have this incentive of like not getting hit to get your multiplier up, and it does the ABC ranking at the end. I was not good enough to really care about that, but I did continuously forget about heat, which or not heat, overdrive, which made it much more difficult, because on things like there's like some of the levels are like blow up these small mini towers and then destroy the control tower. It interferes with communications in the lore or whatever, right? But it's a big tower, and the enemies will infinitely spawn until you kill it. But on that first time I hit one of those, every other level you kind of just cleared out enemies. And so I was like basically not hitting the tower much and just dying until one of the devs was like, shoot the tower. And I was like, oh, I get it. This is a different type of level. I'm never going to run out of bad guys. I'm an idiot. But, you know, so you shoot the tower down, that type. There's some variety in the levels. There's also the levels will tell you at the start, like on basically the mini map, will be like, there are 3 information modules and 1 memory thing. And the memory thing is like pages of a graphic novel that explain the plot. But the information modules are like your unlock currency. And so you know if you've missed any, and they're usually in like random places on the map. And so the first level I got 1 of them, and I was like, oh, I'll just go back and then get all 3. And then once I got into the pattern of it, I was never really missing them. And you always teleport out, so you can kind of stop and be like, I don't think I've looked around all the way, and sort of root around before the level you officially end the level, even though all the bad guys are gone.
Yeah,
which is a nice touch. And those are the things that, like, 5 of those things will open up your first upgrade spot on a weapon, and then 10 on the next upgrade spot, and there's 3 upgrade spots total, but you still have to get the modules, the upgrade bits, and those will be somewhere in the levels. So it's like a nice tiered way of making sure you will scale with the difficulty. It's quite fun. It's nice. I'd say it's breezy. I mean, you get 3 lives or 4 lives, I think, and I definitely needed them in some levels. Basically, the thing that was difficult was there was some very frenetic levels that they clearly designed with the idea of, you've killed enough enemies, you've built up your overdrive meter, now you can start like using it. It's basically like hit shift to start it, hit shift to end it kind of thing. Kind of like Max Payne bullet time, right? Except when it was so frenetic, I kept forgetting about it. So I was trying to like face roll the bits that they had designed to be difficult, except they gave you a tool.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not very good at video games. We all know this.
Well, it's those kind of like extra abilities, isn't it? And I'm finding this with the game I'm going to talk about later as well. There's kind of all of these extra bits that are not subservient to the kind of main thrust of the gameplay. They're there to enhance what you're doing, but they're not going to be there kind of all the time, and they're not built in enough that you go, cool, cooldown's done, do it, cooldown's done, do it, cooldown's done, do it. It's not quite in that same sort of vein as being like, here's my special attack, done. You know, it kind of is, but
and so I think also just because like with the heat, because it's both health and offense and defense sort of thing, and it's literally 4 sort of yellow circles underneath the health bar, you're glancing to make sure you're not dying, and as soon as you do that, you're like, I have I have 3 heat bars lived up, and I have half my health. I'm just gonna immediately hit heal now, because all that information's there. And then besides the health bar is your multiplier number, and in a circle around it are a bunch of ticks that slowly build up. But like, I'm not gonna waste my bullet time on the early parts of the game, so I'm not playing for points. So I kind of, as I got used to the ebbs and flows of the game, I like got used to not caring about the far top left corner. So I just kept forgetting it was there. That's on me a bit, but I also think part of that is in the same way that the heat is really nicely tied to the health and like in the same visual part. Also, if I didn't have such a stupidly big screen, I think it might be easier to have seen all the bits. I'll own that part. The fact that I'm gesturing out of camera at the corner of the screen it is. But the one I will say also on the UI, in those like information modules, the collectibles that are actual currency for upgrading, when you're done the level, I couldn't figure out how to check. There wasn't a way of checking if I had got all 3. Either I finish the level and it's like, you got 2, or I find the last one, because what happens is you pick one up and then it pops up an outline of 1 of 3 or 2 of 3 of them in the top right, or actually it's in the middle, and then it fades away. There's no way to like hit tab or something and be like, do you have all the things? Which is just like a quality of life thing. It's in early access, so I really hope that they fix that. If there's like I said, something like tab, or just like a faint outline that's always there, it's not going to interfere in the top right in the same way you have the HUD, the rest of the HUD in the top left. Just some way so that you don't have the feels bad of, I think I hunted around, I'm pretty sure I got all 3, hit end a level. Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, it was really fun. And I will say one last bit, which is that my time with Elden Ring helped me with struggling against this game.
Oh.
Because you can't face roll too many bosses in Elden Ring, and you have to like calm yourself down and look for the patterns. And it was like, it was watching the VOD. It must be really interesting because there was some runs against these bosses where it's like they have like 3 giant health segments, and it's like almost 2 full health segments, and I haven't been hit, and then I just die 3 times in a row, and you could just see the like, you stopped reading the patterns, you got hit, and that threw you off your game. You could just see that in the ebbs and flows. And again, I thank the devs who showed up and the rest of chat who were like, oh man, no worries. Like, one of them was just like, I didn't get that far on my first attempt on that boss, don't worry. And I was like, oh, it's nice to have Twitch chat not be like, get good, but be like, oh, you're doing great. So I really appreciated that. But yeah,
how fast and frenetic is the game? Is it kind of? I had a quick look on Steam, and one of the games that pops up saying it's similar is something like Helldivers, which is quite a plodding, quite a slow movement kind of game, and doesn't really get into that kind of like bullet hell, or I suppose like horde mode kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where's sort of Uragun sit?
So one of the things that's nice is the first ability you get is actually like a dash, and then it takes a few seconds to reload. You just kind of jet over. It's also how you can cross like pits and stuff. And I wish it took. I get why it takes a while to recharge, because some of the boss fights, what I would like realize I was a bit behind in dodging the explosion, and then on instinct be like, oh, I might get hit by this, I'll hit space. But the problem is, after it's done the explosion, the boss went underground and then would jump out at you, and the only way to like dodge that is when you see the smoke coming, be able to get out of the way. And I knew the pattern, and I was helpless because I had pre-used the dash. But overall, I would say that it's not bullet helly. I think I found it really interesting that the 2 really tough spots I had were mostly these like boss moments where it gets really intense. And like I said, I feel like they were designed with like, you'll probably have a full overdrive, or you have this tool to slow things down. Because what's nice is it tends to be waves of smaller enemies, which if you like time a rocket the right way, they'll drop a bunch of heat. And if you don't have bullet time on, you rush in to get the heat, and you realize that your rocket explosion, it's like a triangle, let's say, of 15 of them, and you've killed 12 of them, and then you're like, oh, the heat disappears really quick, and I need that because I'm low on health. Rush in, get hit by 2 or 3 of them, lose a lot of health, then pick it up. And like, if I had remembered the overdrive, I think that's the kind of the time I think they want you to use it, right? So then you can go in, dodge around the guy, pick up the heat, maybe shoot him with your minigun, and now you're net positive on heat, and maybe can use it to heal, and that's how you're supposed to. But I think because the majority of levels tend to be small waves of medium-sized groups, or a couple, or like 2 or 3 tougher guys, and then a little bit of a break, and then a wave of a bunch of little guys and a medium tough guy, or like that type of thing, and then I got into the flow of that. So like one of the levels I barely got hit, and then I hit the like end game, the last act of that level, and just lost 2 lives so quickly. So I think there's a bit of a pacing mismatch there, but I think it's the fact that I wasn't using one of the tools which would help in that circumstance. But I do think it feels a bit more bullet helly, but not like, it's not a bullet hell game, and it only feels that way just because it's sort of, it feels like a ramp up in the same level in a way that I found not easy to deal with. But again, I will preface this with, I kept forgetting there was a tool designed for this, but I also think there's a game balance way of maybe helping introduce that, making sure that overdrive gets used more. I mean, I had the devs in reminding me over and over, and I couldn't, so it might just be an Aadil problem, but yeah.
That's fair.
Who's to say?
Yeah. I if you do get 5 minutes spare to jump back into the game, I'd be interested, because it says there's partial controller support on Steam. I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are on playing with a pad as well, because
you play games with a mouse and keyboard.
I mean, it sounds like a twin stick shooter, right?
Yeah.
And this is kind of, it's one of the genres we talked about last week where I'm like, I really want a twin stick shooter. Lucy's just gone. That. She's done. She's had enough. She's resting. You can only see her hat. But it sounds interesting in that sort of sense that want something to fill that little space. And if this feels good on a pad, then I think, like Helldivers did. Helldivers felt good on the pad. And if it can sit in that same sort of space, and it's more of a sort of a twin stick shooter, especially as a sort of a single player experience, and like Helldivers, which was much better as a kind of a co-op experience, then yeah, it intrigues me more and more. So
I'll definitely take some time and try that out. Honestly, I was expecting it to be a controller game, and it said partial support on Steam, and I was like, it's in early access. Says partial support, so for the stream, I'm just not even gonna. I'll just use the mouse and keyboard.
Yeah. That's fine.
Also, we all know that
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable living in the mouse and keyboard world. So it's not like I was like twisting my own arm, like, oh no, I have to do that thing that I feel much more at home with. Although, frankly, Elden Ring again is like just the sheer amount of hours putting into a game in a row with a mouse and keyboard. I'm like, oh right, this, or no, without a mouse and keyboard, with a controller, it's like, right, I can do this. This is fine. It's not like the first time I used.
You can live in both spaces.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, and I have for several years. I just grew up not playing with joypad. What do we call those things? Joysticks?
Joysticks, yeah.
Yeah, to me, joysticks are like you grip it on an arcade game.
Analog sticks.
Yeah, there we go. And so, even though it's not the case, because I've been playing controller games for a long time now, I still
they
forget.
didn't always have joysticks, let me have you know, so it's not like
The first console had a joystick. Or did it have, or was it the twist? No,
No, the first console was the twisty knob, wasn't it?
Was it the twisty knob? That would Breakout was the twisty knob. I thought Pong was still. Hey, Twitch chat, tell us what we were wrong about.
70s, so that's immaterial anyway.
Yeah, fair. My first console was the NES. It had buttons.
Yes.
Yes, I'm talking from the
they're the same. Even with mine being the Mega Drive, still buttons.
That's what I'm saying. If you can learn to play Mega Drive with a Mega Drive controller, you can learn to play anything. Really. It's like 20 buttons.
Yeah, it was a joystick with one button.
Okay,
well.
But was it one of those little joysticks? So basically, you're doing it with just your thumb and forefinger.
No, it was.
Yeah, again, not around.
I'm just
look how big your joystick is.
I know how to push your button, but no, stop it.
Yeah, have you got any final thoughts on Uragun or Lucy? Have you got any final questions to hammer at Aadil?
No, I was thinking it looks like you mentioned Helldivers, Ben. I was like, oh, it looks like Alienation from Housemarque. It's just don't get enough. Games. It's all right.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I prefaced the stream with it's like not my usual type of game, but I really liked it, and it reminded me, not in the sort of the inverse of last week. Right, sometimes it's not your genre. You should just play it. Because I had a lot of fun, and I think I got better at it as the stream went on. And I was like, and it was very fun. I don't want to say the word disposable. What I mean is like it was nice. It's something I could have as a short burst of fun. There is lore, but obviously most of the emphasis is just on the in the moment gameplay. I don't think the developers would deny that you're not in this to find necessarily all the comics pages. Most people would just play the levels, enjoy them, enjoy the upgrades. I unlocked near the end of the stream a plasma disc, which was a slow moving rotating disc that sort of went out and then came back into you. And I was like, I should probably not go into this boss fight level with this instead of the minigun, but I passed the last level with it, so let's find it out. And it was just a travesty. But I like the flexibility. Turns out a giant worm that comes out of the ground, shoots a bunch, and then disappears, and then drops some modules, is not going to stay still long enough for you to shoot your slow moving disc at.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't feel like I'm improved at this game at all. But I like that there are these different. There's also there's different upgrades. I think you can upgrade more or get more weapon mods than you have slots, and you have body mods. You have piercings. You have mods that are for the core of the mech that aren't based on some weapon, and you only carry 2 weapons, and I already had 3. So I'm really hoping it kind of you can evolve a build or a play style. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it, and like I said, like I will play this more, and I'll let you know on the gamepad. I'm the one thing that I might slow me down is just the fact that like it's early access, and if it's a nice tight game, sometimes you just want to like wait to get the fully polished version. So we'll see, but I'll definitely come back to it, and I don't say that for every first look game, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just gonna, if I jump back on to, there is a demo on Steam if anyone is interested, as well at the moment. It says it's in early access. I don't think. All it says is approximately how long will it be in early access. Most likely around 12 to 18 months. So the release date was, as you say, yesterday. So yeah, you're probably looking at it being in early access for about a year or something like that. So
yeah, and I don't. It struck me that they weren't like a ginormous team, but it's quite. What I liked was it was a full game in early access, right? Like there was plot, mission. I'm curious, like maybe they'll put voiceover on some of the dialogue. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. Because I don't think you need that. I'm just saying, like, I could see spots where that might be the case, but already it's a full game, and it's doing the thing you want out of this sort of top-down mech shooter. You're a gun. Except you're not, because you're a mech which holds a minigun, and sometimes doesn't even hold a gun, holds a rocket launcher and a plasma disc thing.
Mechs are just big guns.
well,
but that would be extremely pedantic. It's fun.
A little.
I didn't notice there was a demo. I definitely think you should give it a check out if there's a demo.
Yeah. I
think it's $12.99 on early access right now.
Perfect. Good. Kind of your experience leads quite well into my experience with Wierd West, which I've been sort of plugging away at. In that, I've played it both with a pad and with mouse and keyboard, and I prefer both for different things.
Type one hand controller, one hand
and that's it.
Keyboard.
Just sit here with sort of
you hunt and peck with your pinkies while holding the controller.
Yes.
And then when the mouse is needed, you nose it.
I was going to say I might have to get another appendage involved, but I meant more like toes rather than
toes.
I'm not sure how good the ability to use that other appendage would be in gaming. Awful, probably, but anyway. So Wierd West, yes, it is a kind of like, again, talking about another genre that I missed last week, the old CRPG. This has elements of kind of being a CRPG, but it's a little bit more fluid, I would say. It's not like sort of turn-based combat and things like that. It's very on-the-moment kind of combat. It's an action game, really, just with that kind of slightly isometric top-down view to it. But lots of kind of role-playing within it, lots of choice. It's a little bit of kind of borders like immersive sim, right? So there's lots of different ways that you can potentially progress through the sort of the levels and things. You can either go in kind of guns blazing, you can stealth your way sort of through the level, and characters have different abilities to be able to kind of help with that, so you can spec builds towards this kind of thing. But the interesting thing with Wierd West is that you start off as one character and you play through their sort of story. So you start off as a bounty hunter, and you have to find your husband, who's been kind of kidnapped by a local gang, who are getting people to give over to cannibals, essentially. But they're not cannibals because they're like beasts. They're like humans who can then turn into
humanoids.
These. Yeah, they're humans who turn into then slightly humanoid-y kind. Not werewolves yet. I haven't encountered the werewolves, but they're definitely there.
There are werewolves.
Well, the whole the world is like it's the Wild West, but it's kind of like an eldritch Wild West.
Okay.
How weird.
So, which I love. I absolutely love the setting. It's really cool, and it adds to so much of the flavour if it wasn't just sort of like a Wild West or a, Wild West set kind of game.
Because then it would just be Desperados.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what it reminded me of in some of the stylings.
Yeah, differently. What was I saying?
Humanoids.
Cannibal.
Humanoids.
Go through an
yes.
intro.
You basically start off as the first character, and you play through her story. And I got to the end of that, and I have now jumped to another character. So I've done about 7 hours of gameplay with this first character, and I've now jumped to a pigman.
Oh, so it's that game you liked, Mutant Year Zero or something.
Yeah.
Yes, almost.
Okay.
But like, it's interesting in that, unlike Mutant Year Zero, where they're all kind of mutants and live in this society, that I go into a town and everyone in the town's like, I'm not talking to you, you're a fucking pigman. Nah, mate. Yeah, the pigmen come and steal people from towns, and
This is just an allegory for the police, isn't it? So.
Well, to be fair, the sheriffs are quite brutal in this anyway, as well. But it's interesting that it continues the overarching story on, and actually it continues it in time. So I got to say like day 12 with the first character, and then when I went in as the pigman, I go into day 13. So it then continues the world. So the state that I left the world in with that first character is then the state that I come into with the new character. So if I haven't killed certain characters, then they'll be in the world still for to either foil or get in the way of the pigman, or and there's 5 characters as well that you can see, at least from the upgrades screen, and it's built in a way which kind of is tailored towards having a nice little build for each character, but also having a broader build to getting or feeling more powerful with the later characters. So there's 2 upgrades, one which you can just upgrade the character that you're playing, or one where you can upgrade certain things that will carry across all of the characters. So,
can you give an example of what one of the latter types?
So the latter ones are, I spent, and you pick up like Ace of Spades cards in the world, and I can then use those to upgrade my jump ability. So I might be able to jump a little bit higher or take less fall damage.
And that's all of your.
And that would then be all of the characters. And there's three stages to each of these upgrades. Another one is that like shopkeepers give you better discount, or buy stuff off you for more money.
Is there lore that explains why these upgrades magically upgrade both?
No, not yet. No.
It's Wierd West.
It's weird, mate. It's weird.
I just like the idea that, like, well, for the discount one, it's like, yeah, your pigman found this badge that is the discount badge, and he wears it on his sleeve, just like, the jumping. I don't know how you would be like, yes. For some reason, the pigman jumps high too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so there is a bit of an explanation in that the game starts off with you're a character sat in a chair, and there's lots of kind of occult people around you chatting, and basically saying, "Hey, we're going to make you do this," and then you become the bounty hunter and you go through. And then when the bounty hunter story finishes, it goes back to that room, and you're a character sat in the chair. And it then has a picture on the wall, which is the silhouette of the pigman. And they're like, you're now going to be this character. And so they're
Are you the same person in the chair?
So potentially it's the same person, but there's a hood up, so you can't tell. And graphically, there's a lot of detail, but it's quite loose in sort of the sort of perspective. So I would assume it's the same character within the chair. And whether that's a being thrust into the body of each of these characters.
It's going to be an amalgam of all these creatures, and it's going to look horrid.
It's going to be the same person that just were wearing a pigman mask.
Yeah. Well, I think it jumps right. So you start off, because it's Wierd West. It's set in the Wild West. So you start off as the bounty hunter. So you're like a human. You're using guns a lot of the time and this sort of stuff. Now I'm the pigman. I have some of the abilities which you can upgrade, which are specific to the Pigman, which is like run in and do a ground pound on the kind of enemies, or charge at them to do more damage, or absorb. You can have bullets that bounce off of you for 10 seconds. So you almost get like thicker skin because you've got pig skin, which is actually very close to human skin anyway. But it'll be interesting to see.
Crackling.
He's slightly fried, so he's just got this nice sheen to him.
Gosh, I might need to become the cannibal.
Well, it's really interesting that lots of characters really don't like the Pigman. I've walked into maps, and people have, and coming back to the police allegory, someone has text has popped up over their head saying, "Why can I smell bacon?" And these kinds there's lots of this kinds of stuff, and one of the other characters I tried to talk to, and they basically just, well, I think verbatim said "fuck off, bacon," or something, something very similar to that. So like, it's interesting to have that difference in how your character is then perceived within the same kind of persistent world. Yeah.
What have you met other pig people?
Yeah. So the start of the Pigman's journey, you are surrounded by other pig people. You're special because you can talk, but I would imagine that's because you are this other being potentially that's gone into the body of.
So pig people don't normally talk. So it's not like mutant.
No, they grunt.
I'm just thinking of man, bear, pig.
Half man, half bear, half pig. So it's kind of one where it's almost saying, yes, you're this character, but and within these other, surrounded by these other things, but we're trying to set you, aside from the rest of them. Almost, there's something different about you, and that's again part of that overarching kind of plot running through with whoever it is that's sat in that chair. But as I say, I had a couple of not problems with the controls, but I started playing on the pad. And it's quite fluid on the pad. It's quite nice. But the shooting, which is hold down the shoulder button to aim, but because you're in that top-down view, you then spin the left stick around, so you're in a straight line pointing around, right? And it's quite slow. Never great.
Yeah.
Also, because it's the left stick points around and makes you move, but the right, right. Here we go. This is how it works. Left stick is movement, right stick is camera, and camera can 360 all the way around. When you hold down aim, the right stick, so hold down the left trigger, and the right stick then becomes where you are pointing to aim, but it fixes the camera in position. So if I'm suddenly like, right, I've fixed the camera, I'm aiming, I'm shooting at a person here, but there's someone just coming from over there as well. I can aim around, but I can't quite see them. And I'm finding I'm like pulling off the aim button quite a lot to then swing the camera around and then aiming back and then sort of almost shooting at them, kind of almost in a straight line. So I'm using the camera more than I'm using the stick to aim around with to shoot. Whereas when I jumped on mouse and keyboard, you're just using the mouse to point where you want. And it's so much more steady than using the stick, which wobbles slightly over the top of someone as I'm holding in that kind of direction to point towards it. Whereas with the mouse, it was like pang, 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 pang.
That's always a really rough aiming system in most games. Sometimes it's just too sensitive, and sometimes it's just too laboured and never changing the sensitivity, because you might be changing the sensitivity of the camera then or whatever, rather than just the aim. Not great. But given this is an immersive sim, are you always? Must we have ways to engage in combat other than just shooting? So
there are. So there's like throwables like dynamite and molotovs, and there's like electricity traps as well. So I've occasionally gone into an area and it's full of water, like a mine, and it's flooded, so it's full of water, and the enemies are in the water. So I throw an electricity trap because they're all wet, so they take extra damage from electricity. There's lots of barrels around, like oil barrels, so you can kick over an oil barrel, get the enemies to come. They're covered in oil, chuck a Molotov at them, and they'll take extra damage. So you can also stealth and knock people out without using a weapon. So you can do a stealth takedown almost. And there's other sort of, there's melee combat and things as well. But you could run through some areas without kind of killing or hurting anyone, because you're only in that area to get an item, potentially. One of the levels I've just done, I did over and over and over again, because there's guys patrolling around this big house, and I had to get into a room on the other side to go and get something, and constantly getting caught. But because I've got a side mission which says don't get caught, I can't just kill everybody and then go and get the item that I needed. So you can I could ignore that and I could just shoot everybody and go and get what I wanted. But I'm like, no, I want to do it this kind of way. I want to be able to do the extra sort of side mission as well, because doing the side mission has, at least the way it's sold to you, has positive implications for the other people that are within this area. And so I can do that, and then potentially in a few days' time go back to the area, and it would be different if I didn't then do that mission. So I want to see those like changes in state of the different areas based on my actual actions, which is something we talked about a lot, right? You want the world to change based upon what you're doing, and obviously that is the immersive sim, right?
Yeah, kind of permanence is sounds really cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know this game had that. And, like, more
me neither. I've heard a few things, but nothing about that side.
That
That's
sounds
the side that
really interesting.
Yeah. Sort of the final point, again, it's like 5 characters. The first one took me about 7 hours to play through, so you're looking at quite a hefty amount of time, and I'm maybe only a few hours, maybe 3 or so hours in with the Pigman, so I've got a big chunk of game still to play. But I got a side mission which basically is someone who understands that you are part of this overarching narrative, and so it's someone I met whilst playing as the bounty hunter. I've now met as the Pigman, and he's like, hey, it's you. And he said you can go back and talk to the previous character, because they went back to their kind of life. I'm like, cool, I'll do that. I'll go and see the previous character, and then now part of my posse, you get an extra 2 characters, which basically are AI controlled and can run around with you. But she's like, like a super badass character now, with all of the equipment that I had upgraded her with in my run. So I'm like, well, I'll just have this lovely shotgun that I got in the last run with you. I'll have that now for this character.
Oh, you could just yoink it?
So you can just yoink it. You can open their inventory up and just take stuff from them. They don't turn around and be like, that's mine, give it back. They just give it up.
They're like, I don't know, I was in some sort of fever dream, and when I woke up I had the shotgun, so I guess you can have it.
But it's a lot of it is like that, again, I had unused upgrades with the first character, and when I started with the Pigman and I had an empty inventory, I'm like, oh bollocks, I've obviously lost all of those. As soon as I went and talked to her, that came over into my inventory. So suddenly I had an extra 3 Ace of Spades cards. I had an extra couple of little relics which you use to do the personal upgrades on each of the characters. So suddenly I'm like, oh, I'm like level 1. I now jumped up to level 4 essentially, because I'm able to upgrade enough just from going and talking to the previous character.
And that was a side quest. It wasn't like,
so it was a side quest. Yeah, I didn't have to do that.
You could have missed it
at all. I could have missed it completely. Just ignored it.
Oh wow, that's quite a feels bad, and if you find out late in the game that you could have. Like yes, man, it was a real grind starting all those new characters and nothing. It's like, oh wow, why don't you just?
It's like playing Elden Ring without knowing that you can run.
You don't know whether you can run. You don't know where, for other people, where you can even save or upgrade. There's tons of stuff.
Play an hour of the game before you trigger the event that allows you to level up.
Oh, wow.
It's only an hour of the game, but like that first hour sucked. Yeah, I was like, I have all these runes. I don't know anything to do with them.
Yep. But yeah,
I didn't have the horsey.
I'll talk more about Wierd West in the coming weeks as I kind of play through more. I just hope it's going to maintain the hold that it's got on me at the moment in running through it. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's grabbed you quite a bit.
Yeah, to have played almost 10 hours or whatever.
Yeah,
sounds just enough Hitman-y. And I did like Prey.
Yeah, you can't throw like a banana at someone.
Throw it in the bin. Get rid of it.
What, the banana?
No. The game.
The game. Should we open up another beer?
Sure, I only brought one cup, so I will need to rinse out.
All right, you rinse, and I'll tell everybody, our listeners, and I'll tell Lucy, the other beer that I'm drinking. It's called Riffle, and it's a collaboration between Thornbridge and Burnt Mill Brewery. Again,
absolute
another
rifle.
supermarket beer, and as soon as I saw this one, I'm like, what's Thornbridge? And it's Burnt Mill.
Yeah.
And it's
like,
also a West Coast IPA at 7%.
Westies.
So you've got to imagine it's going to be fabulous. We shall see though. There's a bit of flavour text. A rifle is a reach of steam. Oh no, a reach of stream? Yes, a rifle is a reach of stream where shallow, fast-moving water is broken by the presence of rocks and boulders. Rifles are found riffles, maybe, not rifles. Maybe it's riffles.
I was going to say, that's 2 F's there, buddy.
Riffle.
That makes a lot more sense. I was like, what is this? Beer? Water guns? Like, that's not a thing. Water
Absolute rifle.
Do one, mate. Riffles are found both near us here in Derbyshire and in Suffolk near our friends at Burnt Mill Brewery. The beer itself is a collective take on a West Coast IPA with an exceptionally pure malt base and a careful combination of both classic and modern US hop varieties, giving a crisp, clean beer full of tropical and piney aromatics. It's got Chinook, Centennial, Talus, and a Cuanot in. I guess the malt is pale. It's like an eye symbol, so I don't know what that means, but it says pale next to it. There's a nose symbol that says grapefruit and pine. There's some lips that says lemon and guava. There's some cutlery that says grilled pork and pineapple skewers.
Oh yeah.
So there we go. I'm not going to have those, so I'll just drink the beer by itself.
I think you should source some pineapple skewers stat.
Right now, yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
To be fair, the kebab shop around the corner probably do me some.
Just order a pizza and pick them off.
Aadil, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking 6 Degrees North's Madison West Coast IPA. It's an IPA.
I've seen that in my beer shop. I don't know if I actually have that.
It's a 7.3% IPA. There we go. Strong malt backbone, aromas of citrus and pine lead to a long, bitter finish.
Oh, nice and succinct.
Short and sweet. Yeah. Flavor text. I'm not going to pour it like a nitro. I'll pour it like a regular.
Yes, unlike how I've just poured mine. Even though I didn't try and pour it like a nitro, I got an incredible head, almost the same as the beer. But as you would expect with the West Coast, it's very, very clear. It's very light in colour, really, really sort of straw, sort of lemony almost. Not a very big nose. But it's nice. It is piney on the nose. Did it say piney? It did. It is definitely piney on the nose, a little bit of grapefruit. Head's dissipated nice and quickly, so that's gone. Ooh, that's a lovely flavour. Jesus. Ooh.
Morrison's.
It's
might have to take a trip at that.
clearer than I would have thought.
By all the rifles. It's what, sorry?
It's clearer than I would have thought from the description. Yeah, I was thinking it'd be hazy.
It's a West Coast IPA,
white.
Isn't it? So they're going to go for something that's a little bit more sort of crisp and clear, to try and stick with the style. But this is. I don't remember lemon and guava. It says is the sort of the flavour of it, which they're both there, but they're quite light. Then that's not what I would pick up as being the main flavours of this. The lemon is there.
Now, is that because it's very subtle, or in general, or is it because those particular notes are subtle and there's other things going on?
I think there's those particular notes are subtle. The lemon is definitely kind of there and cuts through quite a lot. The guava is a lot more subtle. It's hidden quite a lot through behind this sort of more grapefruit piney note. You know, that nose is coming through much more in the flavour. It is grapefruit and it is pine sticking through with a lovely bitterness on the back end of it as well. You know, the pine and the grapefruit kind of work into, but the lemon works really well, that it cuts through all of it and is still kind of there with me now. So even when that bitterness kicks in, the lemon is still sticking around. The guava's lost a little bit, but is that expected? I'm not really sure. Do we have many beers that have... guava's one that pops up quite a lot, but I don't know. It's sort of a little bit lost in this one. But not to the beer's detriment, I would say. It's still a lovely set of flavours, especially for a 7% beer. But it's nice that a West Coast IPA, again, has those bigger, pinier, bitter kind of flavours mixed in with those kind of fruity notes. And that lemon in this is really good because it is subtle. It's not like zesty, it's not sharp, it's not kind of biting, but it just cuts through enough of all of the other flavours that it is persistent through it. Nice.
That sounds really good. Yeah, I mean, especially with something like lemon, which can really overpower things and get you much more of a like detergent-y feel to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not getting that from this. That's kind of what I expected. When something says lemon, you kind of think, well, is it going to be that big that it just gives it that kind of washing kind of note to it, that it is detergent-y and is too kind of big. But this isn't big. It's not big. It's just present through the entire thing, persistently present through all of the other flavours. So yeah, I'm just gonna shut the fuck up and drink this.
Excellent. Well, while you do that, I will pick up this also West Coast IPA, which is a bit hazier than yours.
Yes.
It's also much more coppery. Yours is like a straw gold. This is a coppery. You can still, I mean, to be fair, like you can see my thumb through it, right? It's diffracting, but you can definitely see it. So it's not hazy, but like I think it's slightly hazier, but also that darker color makes it way harder to see through than compared to yours, which it's just so crystal clear through for a beer.
If there was a lineup and someone said pick the West Coast IPA, I'd definitely go for Deals.
Yeah,
Ben's looks like
almost
like a lager, almost like a lager.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of bubbles.
If it was for the fact that it's clearly not as carbonated as a lager,
it is.
But it's got a lot of bubbles.
Oh no, it does. Yeah.
Oh, it's got. Oh, is that yeast at the bottom though? That's probably one.
Yeah, I think it's got some sediment at the bottom.
No, there's no sediment at the bottom. It's just
your hand that I was
it's
seeing.
just
it's
my thumb at the back. I think.
Just Ben.
I am sediment.
Well, this thing you can't even tell that there are bubbles really going on. That's so interesting. On the nose, I'm getting a bit of lemon, which might be influenced to you, but it's basically like a light, slightly tart citrus note. And it's nice and rounded, almost with a touch of maltiness. But the nose finishes with this crisp, again, very light, this crisp, almost zesty citrus part. Like it's like we get a nice sort of full, slightly tart, a bit sweet citrus note, and then it finishes kind of tightly citrus, which is kind of nice because you get this. You know when you get like you eat that first fruit snack of a pack, and it's like aha, this like burst of flavor, and then it goes away, and then you're like, oh, I want that burst of flavor. Yeah. That's what kind of the curve of the nose is like. It's like aha, and then it doesn't linger.
Okay.
Ooh. Oh, I'm so glad I said fruit snack. That finish. It's fruity. And it's drying me out something fierce in the finish, and that it is bitter on that finish.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have.
proper West Coast IPA. Then.
Mm-hmm. So I think the tin said something about pininess, and that's not nearly as strong as the citrus, and a bit more fruity. That's non-citrus fruit in there as well. Almost like a light notion of a strawberry, but like a supermarket strawberry. So not like a yes, you know when you get a strawberry from like a farm, and it's like this is what real strawberry tastes like, and then you get the like this is like you get the sort of hot-housed, mass-produced strawberry, and it's like this is
like
fruit tasting fruit. It's sort of that notion of fruit, right? It's there. It's a bit sweet, but it's not sort of distinct. I'm not picking a specific fruit out there. But that works really well with this sort of slightly dank piney edge that leads into this long bitter finish. And again, I would say the finish is like 3 rungs down the ladder as far as strength is concerned, but compared to the main taste. But it's just but it's lingering and it's there, and it's like this is really nice. And it finishes texturally wet. So although it's quite bitter, it has this bitter lingering taste. I am fine with it. I don't feel dry. I don't feel like I need to replace it with liquid. I am, because I need to taste. But this is definitely a West Coast IPA that you could take as much or as little time as you want, because you do have that front-loaded sort of fruity, citrusy main taste, and then they have this luxurious but light, subtle finish.
Yeah.
Not subtle, light. Very bitter finish. Like I said, that initial taste, having that same thing with the nose, right? Having that sort of that lovely sort of roundness of a fruit, quote unquote fruit flavor, real fruit flavors. And I don't mean to say this like derogatorily. It just has a fruity taste, not any individual one, which is fine for a beer. And then there's a moment after that where you're like, it is done now. I am done with that flavor. And there's like about 2-3 seconds where you're like, I guess I'll have some more. And then the finish sort of starts, because it's a few rungs down, it makes itself known. And then, so you could easily like nurse the beer after that point, or you could just keep going back for that sort of little burst of fun fruity flavor. Really, really interesting. I really like the taste curve on this, because it kind of engenders itself to both types of drinking.
Nice. Perfect. Okay. Well, we'll sit and enjoy these, and we'll jump into a little bit of a talking point for this episode. Right, as I said at the start, rather than us having 2 episodes this week and talking about games and having a separate topic, we're just going to do a little, not shorter, a longer, but only a single episode. So we're going to chuck in our talking point this week, which at the moment we haven't discussed. It's kind of non-existent, but there's lots.
Fill time whilst you think.
Why? What are you gonna say?
Briefly about Astro Ace.
Oh yes.
What's that?
It is.
Wait, did you say Astro Vase or Astro Face or Astro Base?
Astro Ace.
Ace. None of the above.
The Ace of Spades. Yes. Talk to Ace of Spades. Arcade game. Tank controls. I didn't know that. I haven't played much of it, because the last time I played it was last week. Briefly last week. But yeah, it's a what do you call it? Top Man.
Yeah,
it's
it's just an arcade shooter, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an arcade shooter. Just a single screen arcade shooter. It just gets going. There's no like storyboards or anything like in Wierd West or Uragun or anything like that. It's just pop into the game. It's like choose your ship, and at the start I think you only have one unlocked. But yeah, it just throws you in. It really. I was really reminded when you were talking about tank controls, Aadil, because this game is like very. It's got like the tank control, so like yes, if you're, just moving in a straight, and then you try and turn and stuff like that. The controls, even on the the joystick, are just like. It takes a while to get your brain wrapped around it.
Is it like an arc when you're turning? It's not like sort of turning on the spot kind of thing.
No.
You've got it. Yeah.
and that arc is wider than a bus is a lot of the time. It's
The
just
spaceship
like
steers like a cow.
it does, and there, as you unlock more ships, like some of them are like big beefy boys, and it's just like, oh man, this turn is something. But that's how the game is like balanced. Like the ships that you unlock later on, they may be slower and a bit more, tanky, but maybe they have extra light hit points and
4 billion
and
guns,
stuff like that. Yeah. So actually, that's a good point. The guns are you can sort of like pick which gun you have, and you unlock better guns. Like sometimes you just have like a single pew 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 line. Sometimes you have like a spreaded shotgun. What I don't like is there are lots of things floating through the space that you're in. Enemies, asteroids that you have to avoid. And there's also these pickups, and some of them are like, okay, you get, you recharge your like booster, which I'll speak about later, or you recharge your weaponry because all weapons have limited ammo. But there are some that it's like you pick up a different gun, and in a lot of games, it's like, okay, you're just using your simple starter weapon, and it's like I'm getting surrounded. There's a big horde around me or something like that. I just really need like a flamethrower or something. It's sort of like Vampire Survivors or something when you pick up like the flamethrower and it just destroys everything. Yeah. I haven't found a gun in this game yet that not only does it not enhance it and feel better, it feels actively worse to pick up one of these guns, because some of them it's just like, okay, they're a bit slow, or they do less damage, or there is one that it's like that's like sort of like laser, or just like attaches onto anything. It like sort of has a homing kind of like arcing laser to it. That one's alright, but it just feels like some of these they feel like obstacles as well. Maybe that's intentional, but yeah, it feels like, okay, I'm not trying to get over here to go get that really good gun. I'm just like, yeah, just keep moving past, because everything's like moving through space, moving across the screen. And but yeah, the game is it's okay. I'm enjoying it. Like the bit that I played, I think there are like some negatives in that. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of some of the weapons that you can, well, at this stage, accidentally pick up, because I was still learning the game. So it was just like, what does this do? Oh, nothing good. Okay, maybe avoid that next time. But yeah, the control, well, not the controls. The controls feel fine once you get used to them, but the ships are very tanky. You have this boost feature, which really helps. It sort of alleviates the very tanky nature of those ships, where the boost, it can make you go faster, or you can, while with the right trigger and with the left trigger, you can also slow down, which really helps, because if you just want to kind of like turn on like an axis, it's like you're going in this direction, instead of doing a really wide turn, you can use the brake and just do, pivot around an axis really quickly. So, but that's on a timer, so you can't do that infinitely. So that's interesting how that's a balance as well. And yeah, you can pick up things, pickups going past that recharge your booster. So yeah, it's got a few different things to it that not every arcade shooter has. So it's got a few USPs going for it. But yeah, I'm going to play some more. It seems like there's quite a few different ships, different weapons. So I think finding the ultimate build is probably where that game's just going to get, really fun, because it's like, okay, I've chosen my build, I know what I want, I'm going to see how far how quickly I last. And it doesn't matter how quickly you last in any round, because your like experience level is always ticking up, always unlocking new things, or at least it is early in the game. I don't know how long those unlocks are going to be. I'm like in between, like gaining XP, if that's just going to be, a slog later on. But right now things are opening at like very, very brisk pace. So
Nice.
yeah, so I think later on in the game when it's like, I know which build I want to do.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That they, again, these like RPG mechanics of having builds and being able to spec certain things are kind of just across the board of genres these days. This isn't. It looks like Asteroids, or it looks like it's a game where people have made it after they played tons of Afterburner and games like that, which essentially you are the ship and it's a continuous kind of movement and there's enemies coming towards you constantly and you get pickups, but that is like a one-shot kind of weapon, that you use. And then you're back to kind of your new thing, which might upgrade as you're kind of playing through it. This sort of seems a little bit more involved in allowing you to have those choices of kind of loadouts almost, of what you want to be able to sort of take with you. And it sounds very similar to like Cycle 28, which we all played a few years ago as well, in that it allows you to have that kind of loadout and things and pick the weapons that you want to be able to kind of use. So it's interesting again that, like with Uragun, that you've got that experimentation a little bit. You've got the ability to kind of go, I'm just going to do it in this kind of way and see what sort of works for me. But does Astro Ace have a like, not a story? I know you said it doesn't have like a storyline as such pushing it through, but is it just like, you've done this level, here's the next one, you've done this level, here's the next one?
I think it's just, unless I'm very terrible at it, I haven't seen another level. It's just like, how long can you last for?
Right.
Basically, which I really like. I really like those wave-based kind of games, and I haven't seen like a lot of variety in like the enemy ship design. Some of them are a lot of just the same ship that looks like something out of it's that very classical looking ship where it's like sort of looks like a crab, like pincers.
The crescent.
Yeah, like crescent shape, something out of like, I don't know, that really bad PS1 game Dodger Marina, which is trash. But anyway, so I haven't really seen a lot of enemy variety. I've seen a few different ones, like bigger enemies and stuff like that. But it doesn't feel like a game where it's like you're just getting into the action immediately, and it's like it doesn't have that that heart pumping kind of intensity or speed to it. There was a game, what was it called, the Tachyon Project or something like that. Just remembered the name of that.
It would be Tachyon.
Yeah, Tachyon Project, which 2015, Jesus, which was very neon and just like wave-based game. I really like that game. But or something like, I don't know, Geometry World or something like that. Just doesn't have that.
The classic.
Yeah, just doesn't quite have that. I don't know if this game has multiplayer. I can't remember. But anyway, it's. I think this would be great on like the Switch, where it'd be like a decent time waster for, a couple minutes or something like that. Because, it's run based, but
but
it's decent.
Like if you're in the mood to play something, you're like, I've got 20 minutes. I just want to jump into something. Are you going to jump into Astro Ace, or are you going to go back to Vampire Survivors?
I'd probably play Vampire Survivors.
Yeah.
To be truthful, and then spend 6 hours playing it. So maybe I should stick to Astro Ace because I'm not good at it, and it's like I will die in like within 5 minutes. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Like cool, 5 minutes done. Back to work, or going to do off what I should do, and suddenly it's night. And you're like, oh shit! I've just been fighting the hordes. I'm not quite Alucard, but I am, and I fucking.
What I'm truly saying is Astro Ace needs more casino noises and bells. Because I'm only human.
That's it. There's only so much you can take. without having those extra sound effects just to punctuate through. I mean, it's nuts, isn't it, that we're suddenly looking at lots of other games, lots of other smaller experiences, and then going, oh yeah, but Vampire Survivors.
It's a good fucking game.
It's nuts.
I go back to
with how
it
simple
too.
it is. It's nuts.
To be fair, I think Astro Ace might be cheaper than Vampire Survivors. So.
Oh,
Astro Ace is like £2.
by like 20p.
Yeah.
I don't.
Like
Astro Ace is
£2.19?
£2.09.
Well, there you go. I can't remember. Vampire Survivors is something pretty similar. So.
Oh.
Vampire Survivors is £1.88.
Yeah.
No.
It's on a 10% discount. It's normally £2.09.
Well,
the same.
I'm nobody's financial advisor, but
Yeah.
maybe buy Vampire Survivors. Buy them both. It's
Yeah, I
like
was gonna say,
that's
at
good.
£2 a pop, you could buy them both. But also, like,
I bought a medium hot chocolate on the way back from Suffolk for £4.60 or something like that. It's ridiculous.
I mean, that's your fault, though.
It was, but I had to stop because I needed to fill up air in my tire.
Oh man, I haven't played Vampire Survivors in ages.
No, I'm just literally just thinking
I-
as soon as we finish, I'm going to play Vampire Survivors.
Yeah,
You're gonna get
I mean, once
tie up your arm and just
I unlocked
stick it
the
in
map,
there.
and now I'm like, oh, I should go back to those earlier levels and see what the map looks like. And it's like, oh, it's the same thing. It's just now I know their boundaries. That's what that.
I can't. Jesus, look at that all review, 71,953. They are rolling in that money, man.
What, on Vampire Survivors?
They're all.
That's just the reviews.
Those are just the reviews, which is such a.
Wow.
Yeah, they must have just.
Yeah. They have sold millions.
That's
Oh, what is it?
nuts.
What? And has Ponkel done anything else?
Ponkel?
Maybe not. No, not on Steam. No.
I'm a game and web developer with 7 years of professional experience and a few more as an indie. I make games frameworks. Is that you? Are you Ponkel.net? Your website does not look like you made Vampire. Well, it kind of does, but in a.
It's an interesting. He's got an interesting.
Oh yeah,
background, if you've read it.
HTML5 games: Vampire Survivors, Moon Gleams, Chroma Bells, Virus Break, Tech Smash, and Raining Cats and Dogs.
Because he used to work in the casino industry, which makes a lot of sense.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a good article on Vice.
About
Right.
Ponkel.
Yeah, about Mr. Ponkel. Yeah.
The first thing they say on their website is, "Hi, my name is Luca." I immediately go, "About Ponkel."
Ponkel's a rich man.
I do like how pretty
wow.
much a lot of the reviews are just saying use garlic.
I don't think garlic's as good as you think it is.
Cut his mic. Cut. Get rid
No,
of
I
it.
mean it is.
That's it now. Garlic is the best.
Yeah,
You can't do
the-
anything without garlic.
The Bible's fully pimped. They're better than the garlic by far.
But if you have garlic and
No, so I had a run where I had 3 different weapons upgraded to like their uber evolved versions,
Yep.
and I had garlic. And the garlic didn't do fuck all
Yep.
because most things died outside the garlic range, and the things that didn't were still hitting me because they weren't getting enough damage by the garlic. The garlic doesn't
But have
like
you ever had
scale
the garlic where
with
it literally
the later
turns
parts of the
into
levels.
a black hole around you? I've had garlic, like
Maybe I just haven't evolved garlic.
If you
Yeah.
need to evolve garlic enough, definitely.
Yeah.
it's just a sinkhole.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And essentially just nothing gets near you.
Yeah.
I think even though doesn't do the most damage, I think my favorite weapon to evolve, which it might be because it's the first one where I found out you could evolve weapons, was the knife. Because knife guy gets a free projectile, so I kept doing runs with him. But the knife is full. There's no pause. It's just a constant stream of knives, which makes you more aggressive because you end up sort of like, because the game will give you a wave to the left, and if you go to the right, then they'll have a wave to the right. So you kind of like tempo play them by running head on to them, chopping them with your unlimited knives. which is very satisfying, but it's also very much the Aadil face roll approach of, I'm going to tempt fate. I'm not going to kite things. I'm going to kite myself towards them with these knives.
It's one of those runs where you want those kinds of items where you're being aggressive, because you can just have garlic, Bibles, and those random like holy water vials that just throw into the screen and
like
explode.
The water or whatever.
Yeah, and if they're all upgraded really high, you just stand still.
Yeah.
And you're just surrounded by things, and everything just batters against this ring of weapons that you have around you.
Yeah. I should get back into it, see if there are any
different
weapons or getting the
Yeah.
itch. Ooh.
Well, I've been playing. I Lucy, we can't talk about the new build of Dorfromantik, which is a game we've talked about previously when I played it, kind of in early access. It's a full release, kind of coming out right now, and that's been taking up a reasonable amount of my time as well. Jumping in and being like, "Oh, I'll just have 5 minutes in this. I'll just have 5 minutes in this." I think I just jump back into Vampire Survivors, and that will be it. My life will be over again for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah, probably.
Oh.
Time well spent.
Yeah, I completely.
I really enjoy it. Yeah, it is like we were talking about those, games that we missed, last week about arcade games, and this is that,
Yeah.
So
it scratches a very particular itch, and it scratches it extremely well.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
Very, very much. Yeah, absolutely.
I need that on like the Switch or the Steam Deck.
Oh no! Yeah. I was going to say when you've got your Steam Deck, Lucy, that's it. You're done. Do not put Vampire Survivors on your Steam Deck.
I might as well sell
Do you
all
have
of
a
my
shipping
earthly
date?
possessions.
Are you still like October shipping or what?
Q2. So what's that between?
Q2 is now.
Yeah, I haven't got an email though. So
Yeah, so
I haven't
because
even
they pushed
really
everything,
thought of
they
this
pushed
Steam
everything
Deck,
back
to be
because I was originally end of Q2, and
Right.
then I became after a Q3.
Oh.
So November. So basically, October or later is when I'm slotted, and it used to be I was gonna be sometime in Q3, so they pushed me back a full quarter.
Wow.
Right.
So that's why I was asking. I mean,
I thought they
it makes
ramped it
it
up
year
if
to date
anything.
almost like probably a year. Because I reserved
Yeah.
mine beginning of November 2021.
Oh, holy
Right.
crap! Yeah. Well, yeah, because I ordered mine the first day.
Yeah, which was in the summer.
Yeah,
Like
so you
August?
might
Yeah,
kind of
I
time
remember where I was. I was like at Burning Soul, and it's like I was like, "Come on, why is it not refreshing?" It's like, "Okay, I'll stop this because I haven't seen my friend in person for over a year."
I was trying to be fiscally responsible because I was unemployed. Still am. I wish I didn't because I can afford that over a year. I could. And then Lucy's gonna have her Steam Deck in like, I don't know, 3 months from now, and I won't get mine until 2027.
Well, I won't rub it in your face because I won't be talking to anyone because
Yeah,
there's
that's
only Vampire Survivors on it.
You can't podcast because you just be sat on the toilet forever playing Steam Deck. Like, why would you even leave the toilet? Like, just
No, you go to the. You both go to the bar,
Mhm.
and then you remote play together.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's gonna be amazing, right?
Oh, perfect.
Oh
Perfect.
yeah, I could take.
And then
that
Ben
to,
sits there
bar.
drinking all the drinks.
I'm happy with that.
Thanks for inviting me, guys.
Yeah.
As we both like hand you our switches, being like, you can play with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, take this cheap piece of plastic. I don't need it anymore.
Oh, it drifts. It drifts a little bit. Don't worry about it. It's
Yeah.
fine. You're compensated. It's fine.
Yeah, mine absolutely does.
Yeah.
Mine
why-
doesn't. None of my 4 controllers drift, but I also don't play it nearly as much.
Yeah, true. I think I wore out the nubbins a long time ago.
Those poor little nubbins. And what a good place for us to finish this week. Come back.
So our topic was Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, just Vampire Survivors. That'll probably be our topic at another point in the coming weeks. Who knows? Especially if we all get absorbed back into it, and that's all we have then played for. The few hours that we get, the few meager hours we get every week these days to actually play games. Let's jump into beers. We're reverting back to the an old format. We've had a couple of beers in an episode. Aadil, what do you think about your beers? Have you got any final thoughts on them?
I like them both. So the Nitro Stout, I think Stout really did punch above its weight in the sense of it's being a 4% ABV. Like I said, only on the finish could you tell otherwise, and that means that really it just is a great stout that you could session. Would seek out again. The 6 Degrees North Madison West Coast IPA. So West Coast IPA, but it's a little tempered in that although it was a long bitter finish, again, it's like quite a low impact bitterness. It's just it lasts a while. And it, like I said, it has that notion of like having a fruit snack and having that brief that sort of burst of slight generic fruitiness. And on top of that, a nice clean, sweet, slightly tart citrus, which really buoys everything up. And then like having the choice to like wait for your palate to calm down and notice and revel in that lingering bitterness, or just keep going is a really nice balance for a beer because I sort of drank, I think, the first half real quick. And then now I'm on the last third and I'm like, I don't quite want this experience to end. So I've now switched to sort of my approach to the beer. And now I'm luxuriating in that finish, and it'll take me even a while after we stop recording probably to finish this, and that's great. So even though we stopped doing the which one would you do, I would easily take the Madison a second time, but also I would definitely think of like, hey, if you went to a pub or someone's house and you wanted to session some stouts, that the Brewmaster Nitro Stout's great. I mean, if you just or you just wanted to like start the night with a stout without being bogged down by a heavier beer, again, great. It really does taste like a stout, like a heavier ABV stout, and without sort of the physiological baggage that comes with having a 7% or an 8% stout.
Good.
I feel no such baggage.
I mean, I'm speaking from other people's experiences.
All of us are more than happy to just start the day with a 13% stout. It's fine.
Oh, I have to say one more beer thing, which is just that as my parents are in town because I'm officially getting my degree tomorrow. We can finish your PhD in May 2020, pick it up in April 2022. Thanks, COVID. But because of that, my folks are in town and in the country, and we went to a pub, and I was like, we could get these lagers, or they have the Independence. It's a Bristol Beer Factory, or is it a New Bristol Brewery? I always get those two mixed up. Independence is BBF, I think. Anyway, it's a very easily found Bristol pale ale.
Yep.
And my dad was like, "Oh, I'll try that." And I was like, "Okay." Proof that I did not inherit my dad's palate, because he was like, "This is too fruity." I'm like, "This is such a pale ale. Like it's like a really good pale ale. It's one that like I can recommend to a lot of people because it's like it's not doing a lot. I'm not saying it's not doing it well, right? But it was just so like, oh, you are from a different generation of beer drinking, Dad. And I know this because every time I go home, you have the Saskatchewan beer called Pilsner as your beer, your one beer in the house. And it's, I think I've tasted it on the podcast. It's a beer. But it was just so interesting to hear my dad say like, oh, it's too fruity. And I was like, I would in a million years describe this as fruity, let alone too fruity. We have different palates. This is not a slam on my dad. This is just like, oh, we all taste things differently, right?
Yes.
So I found that really interesting, and I didn't want to not share it today.
Nice, good. How long's your dad here for? How many beers can you throw at him to try in that time?
And so we'll go for dinner, and my dad will probably have a beer, maybe two, and we'll go for dinner 3 times. Yeah. We've already done it 1 time. It's also just not a thing. Like, to be honest, I remember that like back home, you can't really afford to buy scotch in a pub. But actually, like the pub I do the comedy show at, it's now a neck oil is almost £6, and an ounce of Lagavulin is £6. And so, given that I'm working and doing sound and taking photos, actually nursing a neat whiskey is perfect, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus like drinking a beer and then being like, I I have to pee, but like I can only pee at the breaks because I'm busy doing sound and stuff, and at the breaks everyone goes to the bathroom. It's like, oh, actually, give me that whiskey. That's great.
It's the
It
joy
tastes
of
like
it's the
campfire.
joy of whiskey as well. I think the only problem with me having kind of rum as my sort of liquor of choice, it's very easy just to chuck it back.
For me, but yeah, sure.
I was going to say, I don't know. I mean,
Theoretically.
you can definitely do that with whiskey too.
I mean,
But
you can.
just-
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I might have a whiskey with my dad tomorrow.
Nice.
Oh, actually, Ben, if you had parents who don't drink and are not particularly adventurous food-wise, but wanted to go to a nice restaurant in Bristol, I was like, oh, I've lived here for most of the past decade. I'm a vegetarian. I rarely eat out. And when I do, it's like hipster, trendy bullshit that you don't want because it caters to vegetarian, hipster, trendy bullshit people like me.
Yeah. I mean,
Honestly,
I live in that same space, so I'm not sure I can give you
maybe
any...
you would have an idea where
Go
I could take two
Asado
70-something
burgers.
people. What was that?
I mean, when I'm looking...
Asado burgers, because
Yeah.
I mean, there's tons of, like, chain places.
Yeah, I guess. So they want to take me out to a nice place.
Okay.
And the one place I thought of was because I finished my PhD and it took a fucking long time, and so but I was thinking of the Avangorge Hotel because of the view.
Oh, yeah? Nice. Yeah.
Fully booked, but then I just Ubered us to the pub, the White Lion.
Yeah.
So empty. And it was like, because it's 3 years of graduands in Bristol at the same time, so Uber's taking
wow.
fucking forever,
Yes.
and all the restaurants are booked.
There's, what's the one up on Park Street, just up from the cathedral? There's a nice restaurant up towards the top. If it still exists, that's where I went after I graduated in, like, 2010. It might not exist anymore. That
Do you
might
know what
not
it
be
was
a
called?
thing.
Oh yeah, there are some. Yeah, it's a good idea. I haven't
Jesus,
thought about
what was
up
that
Park
called?
Street.
Yeah.
My parents are like can't do long walks or stairs, which is why
I
I don't know how to take you around Bristol. Like it's impossible.
Yes, but we went there. My dad's not a big drinker, and it was more for the meal than it was. I can't remember what it's called. Or then you could go to very close to where you are, to Zetland Road. The Green Room is always a good good restaurant. That's a very good restaurant. Again, not a big beery kind of place, so it's not catering to that sort of crowd, so you haven't got to worry about that kind of side of things. But yeah, the Green Room is a really nice.
I mean, they're fine with the pub, but I think they want to feel like they took me out to a nice place, and it's like, I was a student for ever. I don't know nice places.
Just ate in wherever I ate.
Anyway, I will stop this clear side conversation that I chose to ask on recording. Even Lucy's probably now. I think she might be playing Vampire Survivors.
No, sorry, text.
No, it's fine. I'm teasing you
I
for doing
zoned out.
exactly what you should do, which is tune out of a very local personal conversation.
Absolutely. For you, listener, if you stuck around for that part of the conversation, let us know in your, where you live, the good restaurants that you enjoy going to, just in case we ever happen to be there. That would be great. At Tanks Upcast on the socials. Out of my beers, I'm going to go with the Riffle. The Order of the North was it's just a bit bland and a little bit average. The Riffle's a very good West Coast IPA. I would absolutely pick this up the next time I go to the supermarket. Again, at Morrison's specifically, because it is a very good beer. So that was the Thornbridge and Burnt Mill Brewery collaboration.
And they both do great work, so I'm not surprised.
Yes, absolutely. If you'd like to tell us all individually about the things that you've been doing, I'm at Nova_47. Lucy is
Juicy Loose 9.
and Aadil is
at the Omniarch.
Or as I've said, you can come to at Tanked Upcast on the socials as well to chat to all of us, or go to outoflives.net to see the video version of the podcast, look at the beers that we are drinking, or go to our Twitch channel, Out of Lives Network on Twitch, and see us every Wednesday as we podcast live, or look at Aadil's First Looks, which are on a Tuesday as well, or see just the VOD versions. You can also go to our YouTube page, Out of Lives Net, to see previous episodes that we have done or previous streams of games that Aadil has played. That's all of the places we inhabit. They're the beers that we have drank. They're the games that we have played in the last week. Thank you for joining us. We will catch you all very, very soon. Goodbye.
Bye. Oh, I should talk about the little Earth project. I'll talk about it next week.
Yeah. Oh shit! We didn't talk about you going.
Fine.
You're in the field reporting. Yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because I haven't got much to say. I was
That
just sat there and drinking. I wasn't taking anything in, so you know. I'll just say it's good. Recommend.
Not local, but recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I guess this is where I say bye.
Bye.
www.outoflives.net